This is one of those messages where I have to say it's not for everybody. It feels very specific. So specific, in fact, that I'm kind of overwhelmed with different visuals. I might need to pause and take a minute here. I actually have no idea. Okay, I'm back. I considered re-recording that slip up since I got so flustered right away. Especially like right at the beginning like that. But I figured I would be real here than to pretend I knew what the hell spirit was even asking of me at first. There is a lot of moving pieces here. The first, which is the main umbrella, is a message that is to be real and authentic, just like I did when I didn't pretend like I knew what was going on. I think that desire to not pretend I knew what I was talking about here wasn't random. It's kind of like in my character, obviously, to be very real with all of you and to be frank, but it was supercharged at the beginning of this message. And I think that that was for a reason. For the very small number of people this message is for, I see being real, being authentic as something you've kind of always done, but a lot of your authenticness in the past was like derived from less consciousness. Like, in other words, you were real, but you didn't actively choose to be real. It kind of was like a natural instinct. It was like born into you to not be fake. Where I see now the shift is you're kind of like intentionally choosing to be real. You're actively choosing it in some way. You're conscious of it. I feel like this reading is going to be kind of rough for me. I might have to take multiple pauses because there's just a lot of different things coming out in different ways. I think there's an aspect of this reading that's like these astrological aspects that I'm getting, these life path points. I have in front of me the north and south nodes specifically here, which comes out when a reading is very much like soul path, life path oriented. And I'm going to put all of that in the description because I see a lot of it being the clarifying energy you're carrying throughout your life, or it could literally be your north and south nodes in your natal chart. So I don't see that being the case where it's literal for the majority. So this is more me telling you the energy, the collective energy of where you are and where you're going, I think. And I'll leave that all in the description. I try not to overcomplicate things in the readings, so I always leave those complications in the descriptions. And today might be a wordy one. I am so sorry, but there is a lot here. I don't get to choose. I'm just the messenger. This reading specifically addresses anxiety, it seems, and it's connected to consciousness or your authenticity. I kind of see this being where in your life you've gotten more anxious as a result of your consciousness. I kind of also see the reverse here of that as well. You've gotten less anxious as a result of your consciousness, but both are valid and have similar energy structures in what it's pointing to today, which is like anxiety being the thread between your conscious journey. So I think who this message is for, which again, very small percentage, is for a group of people who started life in what seems like a fog or a blur, or it could be foggy or blurry currently. Again, everything could be reversed, but this blur is driven on intuition and instinct, but slightly more raw and authentic. And now coming up, or that transitioning space, you're reaching this place of defining structure that there may be an anxiety that seems to play a part in defining that structure. There may be like an accompanying, oh shit, we're doing this, we're grounding. We're grounding from the fog. So it doesn't have to be a message for just the anxious. I think it's that transition that's important here between the two. You may not be in a place of anxiety yet, or you're not really struggling with it now, but I think the message is more so being real in that space, regardless of being in a fog or being in the structure. You're still intentionally choosing to not pretend in either case. So if you're still here, it means you're the few that this message was meant for. This part, I will talk about, I think, your life path and this lifetime and its difficulties. I'll try to incorporate some nudges of encouragement because I sense here this is much more of like a realness reading. I don't really like to do realness readings, but they come to me more often than not. It doesn't seem like it's very sugar-coated today, but we'll see how it evolves. You were born into this life with very strong residual energy from a past life. So Pisces here in your South Node shows me the energy you carried, even if it's not in your chart, is energy that came here that was like blurry and ungrounded. It was very floaty. So you basically came here spiritually tapped in, and that's not a bad thing because a lot of people are not spiritually tapped in. This could have made you seem very airheaded or spacey or floaty. I see it kind of contributed to this feeling of being misunderstood later in life once you did ground this energy. Those formative and beginning years, being so elevated or tapped into within the spiritual world, it kind of like isolated you from what I'm seeing here. Definitely not an easy thing for people to relate to. Like when someone's so tapped in and it's uncommon, a lot of people are going to be like kind of uncomfortable with your presence. So others around you early in life couldn't really grasp why you were so different. There's like a displacement in your frequency. You're floating above everyone in consciousness, right? You're like so attuned in a way that's jarring. So Pisces here really shows me that you were heavily influenced by this intuitive fog that you came here with, especially in early years. It was like this dreamy state of consciousness. You were so tapped into the divine. I can't say that enough because it's super powerful. And I just really keep seeing that others couldn't understand your frequency. They were disconnected from it because they were more maybe grounded in the earthly realm and you were more tapped into the spiritual realm. And that's why this isn't a message for everybody, because not everybody comes here intuitively shaped like that, intuitively tapped in. Sometimes maybe the more common route is they become more tapped in as they evolve, as where I see your path is much different than the normal. So your life path, this Pisces Virgo axis that's clearly in front of me, is you are here to be challenged with this Virgo embodying energy. The North Node is our mission in this lifetime. It is our highest timeline and what that looks like, what that energy is shaped with. And that is Virgo for you. Just the structure of the energy is Virgo. Your highest timeline holds practical and organization energy. It's structured with a shape. It's grounded in the earth. So where you struggle is learning to balance the desire between drifting back to Pisces and back to that intuitive state of tapped in energy and grounding it into the physical world. So there's going to be a lot of times where you want to revert back to this Pisces energy. You want that fog, like dreamy state that floats above others, but your soul will be dissatisfied if it stays in that dreamy fog too long. Your soul is meant to be grounded in practical ways through Virgo throughout its life. So this kind of looks like, in practical terms, learning to slow down. And this could be something that you're incorporating already, I kind of see here, or if not, no, you need to, but you're learning to look at the details more. You're grounding from that fog. You're organizing emotions into these containers instead of just floating with them indefinitely. I see the way you've started, or the way that this learning period is evolving for you, is it may be difficult for you to actually slow down and look at the details too long because you've operated by intuition and instincts for so long. That was the energy you were brought into this world with. So of course it's not wrong. Neither of them are, but the axis here, this Pisces to Virgo axis, is having that challenge to ground that tapped in energy in an earthly way. So a random visualization that came through as I was talking about this axis for you is, I was just about to conclude, and it's funny because it came up right when I was going to stop this part, but it's two random things. I know some of you love my odd things that come up, but this one is leaving cabinets open and having significance to that in some way. I don't know if that's literal for some of you. I don't know if you hate that or if that's your pet peeve or if you do that. I also see someone like over washing their hands and being extremely scheduled about the cleanliness of their hands. Lots of hand washing. Something really like recent about that too. That's not something that's been long withstanding in your habits. If that's not literal for you, I think I'm going to leave the details in the description from a figurative standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, but I see this being like a way to explain this Pisces Virgo axis for you, like your life evolving. Pisces leaves the cabinets open because why bother to close them if you're just going to open them again later, right? And then Virgo she overwashes her hands because it's a preventative tool to help from getting sick. So why change if it's been successful? It's very preemptive. It's very planned in nature. So both extremes here are probably pointing to something important. I kind of see this making a full circle to this anxiety thread that came up in the beginning that I saw very briefly, is like Pisces starts out with no anxiety and slight disassociation from reality by just leaving these cabinets open. And then Virgo is like overly conscious, and that association becomes anxious as a result. Virgo is overly washing her hands, removing the good bacteria from her hands as a result, right? And then eventually getting maybe more sick as a result of her planning. So this could be your development pattern. It could be reversed as well, but Virgo is kind of grounding Pisces. If you can't see that clearly, when she does become overly fixated on planning, on washing hands, on preparing, she's setting structure to ground this dreamlike intuition. And so Pisces needs Virgo and Virgo needs Pisces, right? As the opposites, the extremes. And as a result, I see this anxiety thread playing into what we talk about in our next section, because these two axes are very important as you continue to move forward. Wow, this reading is truly something else. I don't think I've ever gotten this much. I'm kind of just sitting here like baffled. Maybe I have like a maximum capacity limit for spiritual nudges that I keep asking for in every reading because I want to be an effective reader. I should probably like set a limit for how many nudges I can have per day to channel for, unless you all love the chaos, in which I am here to serve. The last really specific thread that keeps showing up here, I was going to just put it in the description and not really dive into it, but it just keeps repeating in a loop. And so I think it wants to be talked about. I'm going to leave the channeled song by MGMT, Fated to Pretend. And let's not get too focused on your musical taste here. I don't think that that's the importance of this, and why it keeps coming up is, for those of you who aren't familiar with this song, it really touches on kind of a profound tension between awareness and illusion that I think this message is about for you. When we grow our consciousness, it collides with this need to fit into the world, right? This song talks about the band's reality of performing or becoming famous, and how it's like stretching their consciousness. And as a result, they aren't celebrating the fantasy of becoming like rock stars or celebrities. They are directly explaining that the dream of escaping to fame is an act. It's pretend, and we're all kind of doing it. So in other words, they're kind of telling us that we are all fated to pretend in this life, that we are all working towards something that is not full. It is empty. Very profound, layered meanings, I'm sure. But regardless of your musical taste, and if you've heard of this song or if this song really resonates with you, it's pointing at how we are all here to inevitably pretend. And I see this fitting in so perfectly with how your life path develops into consciousness, this Virgo Pisces axis that we keep talking about, that I keep relaying to you over and over again, is your life path is directly tied to conscious development, to going from this dreamy state from Pisces in your south node to this grounded state in Virgo in your north node. And the energy here is profound because they both have their rewards and their challenges. Like, Pisces is allowing you to float and stay in ignorance, where you didn't have to order things, where you didn't have to close the cabinets. There was some safety in that fog for you. There was like an ability to dream big, an ability to like really think about things that you can't feel the same way about now. Because as you're grounding into Virgo, as you're expanding into consciousness, there's a feeling of like strange nostalgia that's coming from wanting that fog back. From wanting to not be so aware anymore and go back to pretending again. And you are more burdened now by this anxiety and this awareness from Virgo that's trying to ground you. And so there's more of a heaviness here. And I do see the desire to go back to pretending, to go back to that fog where you could dream, is going to be kind of a perpetual cycle here. But Spirit's message is interesting because it's like a complete plot twist. It's like really baffling me. It basically says, from what I see here, is like, you're not trapped in this awareness now. You are not doomed to this anxious life where you can't pretend anymore. Instead, this is purposefully constructed, this anxiety from Virgo, to feel heavy right now, to feel heavy when you've experienced it in whatever timeline, because it's asking you to put things down and pick things up. It's asking for you to sort through what is pretend and what is not pretend. and it has to be heavy to do so. So it's not that we are doomed to pretend or that we're just pushing forward. Think of this as something that happens during a big life moment where you are like mid-script, mid-peak. You are deliberately in a threshold space, just like MGMT during this peak of fame that they're relaying to you in the song. It is where the energy kind of boils to the surface. It's where the energy is at this huge shift in consciousness. And that axis between Pisces and Virgo is exactly where this song plays for you. So even if Virgo feels kind of like a burden, it's just the peak space of anxiousness communicating this signal. It pushes you from floating in the fog to kind of like performing consciously. And once you get there, you kind of have to make these choices to put things down or to pick things up. It's kind of guiding you not to pretend anymore, which feels anxious. It feels urgent. But those anxieties, those urgent pings are kind of just pushing you. So MGMT in this song, they were basically in this moment of being presented awareness and anxiety because their guides were communicating this signal. This isn't the highest path. Put this down, pick this up. Same for you. What feels anxious or urgent is just a signal that you are pretending in some way and to put that down. So writing this song to communicate to you might have been them picking up something real and setting down something fake, right? Because they're being signaled of something in their awareness. So Spirit is really saying with this message, we are not fated to pretend doesn't mean you're trapped in this act forever indefinitely anxious. It kind of just means you're conscious within it now. And that's these anxiety pings that you're getting is you can play the game without believing it's real. Pisces builds your fantasy, but then Virgo writes your script for you. Virgo moves you forward in a way that's going to ask you to pick things up and put them down through this anxiety. So the freedom isn't in breaking the illusion. It is choosing how you move through it. Here is take 2 of our outro because we've outgrown take 1. This last part is for newbies. If you're new here with me now, hi. I need to inform you that leaving comments helps me channel more effectively. Think of this as an energetic nudge where I can pick up on and be able to sort through what you need to hear easier. This doesn't mean you have to like share some grand intimate detail about your life in the comment section for everyone to see. They can just be simple energetic nudges to feel something from you. It just helps me channel better. But if you're nudging me a lot and maybe I'm not picking up or channeling for you, I just want to clarify, it's not like a line where you're waiting for your turn because others are being more prioritized over you. It's more of divine timing. The message will find you and direct when it's needed for you. This has nothing to do with how powerful your energy is to me. I may feel it very strongly, but it may not be the time to tell you something. It's all about timing. And then finally, I want to say that my neutral positioning to responses might be jarring to some, but this is really how I protect the energy I channel. I want you all to know that I literally read every single one. They are all so honored. I'm actually a little bit insane about reading everything. Every single word is read here. That is my main priority. The way I actually honor your comments and nudges is through the quality of my readings, not through responding to some or cherry picking those who get hearts today and likes today. You are all equally being prioritized here, not a few here and there randomly. So thank you all for being here. I love you probably more than makes sense for some strangers online that I've never met in the physical world. But here we are feeling like we've known each other for our whole lives. So cheers, friends.